Hey everybody, welcome back to the Indie Grounds podcast. And this week have a very special, really focus on a musician. I'm excited to do it. You're going to find out why in a little bit, but I first want to say welcome to all the new people. You know, it's crazy. Like a week or a week and a half ago, I had 49 subs, and now we're up to 75. You know, so to everybody that's come on, and thank you for all the support for the last couple weeks too, and the Guster video, and then, I don't know, I just kind of get lost sometimes. Just really want to thank you all for everything that you guys have done and listening in. And so this week, we are talking about Jonsi. Now, who is that, you may wonder? Well, he is part of an Icelandic band named Sigur Ros. Now, before I begin into this week's episode, let me just say this. I deeply apologize if I butcher any kind of song titles, any kind of Icelandic words or definitions. I apologize now. You know, I tried to do as much research as I could into pronunciations, and I was just too excited, and you know, I was just kind of like, you know what, even if I butcher it, I really just want to talk about it, because if you don't know who Sigur Ros is, you really need to listen to them. Think Radiohead, I think I would be, is a band that would be somewhat close, maybe very, very early Coldplay as well, but of course with a key difference, which we're going to get to in a second. But Jonsi is the lead guitarist. Well, I shouldn't say lead guitarist. He's the lead vocalist and one of the guitarists in the band Sigur Ros. And that's two words, Sigur Ros. What's kind of cool is the band themselves were named off of Jonsi's younger sister, Sigur Ros, which was all one word. So I thought that was kind of cool. But they were on their late teens. This was in the mid to late 90s when they got formed. And what's funny is only one of their band members, who's their kind of like keyboardist and synth player, he's the only one with a kind of actual musical training and education. The rest of them just kind of picked up instruments and started playing, and just went as, you know, just learned as they went, essentially. So their first album was made in 1999. It's kind of hard to tell, because a lot of articles say 99 through 2000. Some of them even say 99 through 2001. So I just say, you know, 1999, that's when it happened. And it was all spread through word of mouth. And maybe that's why they kind of spread it out through several years. Because you have to remember, this is before the internet, you know. So this is all just word of mouth of how they're starting to get popular. And I think the big reason is because they were compared to Radiohead and Coldplay, you know, which were getting huge at the time. So they were really just, releasing tons of music right away. And a few of their singles were even released live as well. So I would say kind of their spacey, but yet at the same time acoustic, kind of big arena noise, really drew the attention of people. They got on TV shows right away. You know, a lot of their music was found there as well. And what started happening is Jonsi wanted to make the synth and the guitar effects even bigger. And so what he decided to do was he grabbed and he started to use a cello bow, just like how cello players play. He would literally just start, using the bow to just make this huge sound as well. So that was pretty cool. You know, I don't know where he got the idea from. I'm sure, you know, he probably saw it somewhere, or maybe just because of their early days kind of just messing with instruments, that's where he got it from. And so that's kind of his signature style. You know, if you see him usually playing live, that's especially when they play their bigger numbers, he has that cello bow that he's using to bow against his guitar. So that was really cool. In 2001, I would say this was one of Sigur Ros's biggest albums, and they call it the bracket album because that's what it's almost like parentheses. Um, and thousands of those albums were released as well. It was just massive. And it was really cool because, a lot of people didn't know how to pronounce the names of their songs. Some of them were even untitled right away, especially on their website as well. Now, Jonsi started to do something very cool right here on this album, and I think this is the reason why Sigur Ros got so big in comparison to maybe where they could have gone. So they started to sing in Van Lenska, or maybe you could say in English, it's called Hope Landic. So it's a made up language by Jonsi and Sigur Ros, and it's all pretty much just noises. There's no meaning to the words that they're saying, and a lot of times they kind of just go in these high falsetto voices. If you listen to Sigur Ros, you know what I'm talking about. But the reason why Jonsi and then other members of Sigur Ros, why they started to do that is because they wanted the listener to kind of interpret the music. And I know, like in other interviews too, they've said like the whole purpose of that is they almost use their own voices as an instrument as well. So I think that's such a cool idea, something just really different as well. And what's interesting is in Vanilla Sky, which is an American film, Tom Cruise is in it. The director said that they were looking for something to end the film with, and they actually saw Sigur Ros perform live. And the song is called, in English, it's called Untitled Number 4. Don't ask me how to pronounce the Icelandic or Hopelandic name. And the director was so impressed when he saw them perform that live. He was like, this is it. We need to close the film with this song. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. So Sigur Ros released albums in the upcoming years. They released a fourth one as well. Again, it got a lot of critical acclaim. A lot of fans loved it. They're performing everywhere. They're making tons of even worldwide performances as well. And what's really cool is near the end of touring for that album in 2007, they come home to Iceland, and all of a sudden they start randomly popping up outdoors to start performing concerts free of charge. And so a lot of people, were confused because even the location where they were performing in abandoned buildings, kind of small community like coffee shops and so on and so forth. And so they were kind of confused. They didn't really know what Sigur Ros was doing. But in 2007, kind of in August, they released a DVD called Heima. And literally, it was just footage of all of their performances that they had been doing pretty much during the that summer while they were doing it. And that was, I want to kind of pause on Jonsi's and Sigur Ros's history here. That was my introduction to Sigur Ros. I'd actually never heard of them up until I saw that DVD. And honestly, if you are a music lover, if you love nature, you got to watch it. You really just have to watch that DVD, Heima. Amazing outdoor performances. The photography is, oh man, it's just so amazing. It made me really want to visit Iceland, and the music too, you can't understand what he's saying. It's either in Icelandic or it's in that Hopelandic language that they made up for the band. It doesn't even matter. It really doesn't matter. You just got to watch it. So I kind of fanboyed right there, but, you just have to do it as well. So afterwards, they released a fifth album, just more very good critical acclaim. The final track of their fifth album is called All Right, and it was their very first time they sung in English. So that was pretty cool. You know, they're kind of learning how to do different things. They went on tour like crazy again. And then Jonsi wanted to do something a little bit different, kind of when they were all done performing. So in 2009, he wanted to release his own solo album, which was called Go. So, you know, it was the first time that he did it. And it went really well. You know, it really did. It was released in 2010 in April. And he toured for it. Kind of the same old started to happen again. It was more of the same. I think there was a little bit more English that was thrown in there, but still a lot of that Icelandic language as well was on that album. So he kind of got busy with that. And then what happened was he came back to Sigur Ros kind of in 2010, and they were rumored initially to be working on a new album. So fans started to get excited, but then Jonsi actually came out and said, you know what, this is a rumor. We don't really have anything recorded at all. And I think he said they even did have a little bit recorded, but they threw it away. They didn't like it. But what's kind of funny is they were performing at Coachella as well. Well, Jonsi did, not Sigur Ros. So, but he did say, you know, like, hey, I'm touring this album, but when I come back, Sigur Ros is going to, you know, make another album. So in 2011, so, you know, kind of fast forward another year, it was rumored again that he had returned, that they were working on an album. But they came back together for what's called Ini, which is a DVD and double CD of live performances that they did in London. So, you know, kind of more live performances and festivals as well. They even promised, you know, like, hey, we're going to get back together. We're just kind of been regrouping and getting some things together. But they continued to tour, you know, all through 2012. They just continued to tour as well. So they released another album soon after that and toured again. But then in 2013, you know, a few of their bandmates started to leave. You have to imagine at that time too, all of them were kind of in their mid-30s and started to kind of just grow apart. You know, a lot of them started to have families. A lot of them kind of just got tired of the grind. They went on hiatus for quite some time after that. And what's kind of crazy is they really hit a rough patch, because around, I want to say, in the mid to late 2010s, they started to consider, you know, kind of getting back together. It's kind of funny because even though they had been labeled they were on hiatus, they kind of still would make songs for like films, for TV. They would provide kind of background soundtracks as well. They would do covers of like famous like musical scores too. So it's almost like they never completely quit, but they weren't like exclusively and extensively touring either. So it was kind of this weird middle ground. But I think like right in late 2017, they started getting serious again about wanting to tour. But then in 2018, one of their bandmates was accused of sexual assault, you know, no light thing. So he actually ended up quitting himself. And then in 2019, like I'd say about 6 months later, the band Sigur Ros was charged with tax evasion, supposedly stating that they had, submitted incorrect tax. They blame their accountant, their managers as well. But what's funny is the charges against Jonsi and his company proceeded. and kind of continued forward. But then the charges in 2023 were dismissed too. So a lot of, outside things outside of music started to happen to them as a band. And what's kind of funny is they've even talked about that. They even said like those years were extremely tough on them, just emotionally taxing, and they were just going through so much as well. During that time, Jonsi had split up with his partner too, so he was going through that. He did make 2 more solo albums as well in 2020 and 2022, I believe, or 2023 as well. And that's kind of where we stand now. He plays a lot of instruments, nowadays, almost like the full range of instruments. He speaks multiple languages. And if you haven't seen Jaime, if anything, if you've listened to this podcast straight through, if anything, just go watch their live DVD. It explains almost perfectly who Sigur Ros is as a band. But yeah, that's this week's episode. That's Jonsi. That's the band Sigur Ros kind of in the background that I talked about as well. And I hope you guys check them out. And if you haven't, hey, give them a re-listen if you have listened to them too. Listen to them again, or watch the DVD again if you haven't. But so happy to speak with you guys this week. Hope you have a good week, and I'll see you all next time.